As a priest, I have to preach about love. That's what the Gospels are all about, the love of Christ. And it's pointless of me getting up in the pulpit on a Sunday morning preaching about this love if I know in my own heart and soul that there are a group of people in the audience or in that congregation in the church on Sunday morning, and I know that they are being exploited. I have a duty as a priest to try and get personally involved in those people's problems and try to eradicate those same problems.
My advice to him would be to come in here and talk to us, talk to other people, get his facts right, because he hasn't got them correct.
Father Jack Robinson has been controversial since he was ordained just 2 years ago. Aged 27, he has lived in Kilkenny all his life and was in trouble even while studying for the priesthood at St. Kieran's here. He tore down an examination notice because he felt part of the curriculum was irrelevant. He was suspended for a year and then came back to the seminary more determined than ever to be a priest. Almost immediately after being appointed to St. Patrick's Parish here, he became involved in various disputes between flat dwellers and landlords.
One couple after another came along with the same kind of problems: repairs, sewerage, electricity wires gone haywire, all this kind of thing. So eventually I decided, with the help of Father Jim Forristal, to start up a flat dwellers association here in Kilkenny, just to give these young tenants, these young girls and boys and married couples some protection in this line. So we started up the Flat Dwellers Association, and ever since then we have had a constant struggle with the local authority, the corporation, on this particular business.
The majority of the corporation members reject the charges levelled by Father Jackie, as he's widely known. Some have publicly accused him of being irresponsible and a publicity seeker. Others take a more moderate view. Labour councillor Luke Boyle.
Well, the way that most of the members feel is that they don't like to see an outsider coming in and telling them their job. They are doing the best they can.
They don't like a priest coming in and telling them?
Well, not so much a priest, any outsider, I suppose, coming in and telling them.
What do you think should be done about
Father Robinson is undeterred by the criticism. He says the corporation may have a housing record second to none, but it has other faults. He sees no contradiction between being a priest and an activist. He is probably lucky to be attached to this diocese. His friend and co-founder of the Flat Dwellers Association, Father Jim Forristal, believes he might have found himself in trouble anywhere else.
I think without a doubt there are other dioceses where you wouldn't have a bishop who sees things in such a realistic terms and who is not socially committed. And I should imagine that he would find it very rough going and probably find himself kicked to a remote part of the diocese if he took such a stand.
The young cleric's most formidable critic is the Mayor of Kilkenny City, Alderman John Houlihan. They have had various disagreements and clashed yet again recently when Father Robinson claimed there were young married couples in Kilkenny who were having to have babies they didn't want just to try and get a home.
This is where he and I disagree. First of all, it's not true that young couples have to have children, because the last housing list that we went through of the applicants put into, which the doctor will now put in priority, about 120 were on this list, and out of that 31 applicants had no children, and 58 had only one child. So it can't be true to say that they must have children. We have housed several couples, many couples, without children.
I said that, and I was told I was very irresponsible for saying that. But I'll put it another way, that a couple with 2 or 3 kids in a flat have a far better chance of getting on the priority list than a couple with no children. Because I've known, for example, TDs and that, when a young couple go down and ask them, what situation about the houses. Well, one of the questions that's asked really is, have you got any kids? That is a very, very true fact. And you do, let's face it, you have a far better chance with kids of getting a house or getting on the priority list than with no kids.
Well, the corporation simply refuses to accept your allegation about couples having to have children they don't want. The mayor in particular.
Since I made that allegation, a number of couples have come up to me and they were smiling about it, but they were serious at the same time, and have said to me, Father, we did just that.
I think that he is sincere in what he's doing, that he really means well. That's my honest opinion about Father Robinson. Misguided, misinformed, and the information is available anytime he wants to come in here to the City Hall.
cold this morning, isn't it? It's cold. Freezing the word. Listen, I came to you about to say the work that we're having a Saturday week.
Any discussion of the pros and cons of the case sooner or later lead to the question, should a priest allow himself to get so involved with local politics? Practically everybody in Kilkenny accepts Father Jackie's involvement in principle, but some, like Mayor Houlihan, have reservations.
I think he has every right to come in. There are lots of young priests nowadays, some in my own parish, who are very active in youth movements and various advanced movements like this, and I think that they can do excellent work, provided, of course, they're not misdirected, misguided, or misinformed.
I think that is true, that some people would feel that, especially the older people would think that, you know, what am I as a priest getting involved in these kind of things for? Why don't I stick to saying Mass and giving the sacraments and that?
Do you think it would be better if he stayed out of local politics like this?
Aye. No, I don't think so. I think it's good to have him come into it, or for anyone. Anyone has a right. But if you come into politics, you must bear what's going with politics. We get many kicks in politics, you see. So right, if you want to come into politics, you must be prepared to put up with this kind of thing.
I know that some people probably have been shocked by me as a priest and you know, getting involved in these kind of things. But I think times are changing. I think today that if you want something in society, if you're going to fight for something in society, if you want to achieve something in society, because society has gone so, it's a hard society today. You no longer can get things by asking and saying please for things anymore. You've got to go out there and you've got to get in there and get involved, and you've got to put your point across in so many ways. Otherwise, you're just banging against a blank wall.
Yes, I think in the future we're going to see more of this, because certainly, you know, the type of education that a young priest is going through is very much saying, you know, if we're going to talk about justice and morality, then this has got to come down to very practical things like the equality of people's living conditions, wages, housing, you know, the whole practical things of life. You can't talk about justice anymore, you know, something out there, without being concerned about how it's being worked and lived.
Some might say that other priests achieve a lot behind the scenes and in a quiet way without turning themselves into a controversial figure.
Yes, that's possibly true as well, and there are priests, and I would say the majority of priests today are doing that. But I think there's room for the other type of priest too, and I am of that kind of a nature that this is just me. I'm just being myself.